Have you ever had this experience? Late at night, scrolling your phone, you see a bottle of whiskey. The label says Rare Perfection. You click. 10 years old, Kentucky Straight Bourbon, 130.7 proof. That's 65.35% ABV. Online price around $250. Shipping not included. You think, this is insane. A 10-year bourbon for that price, that's almost what some 18-year-old single malts go for. But the numbers don't lie. This brand has a legion of hardcore fans. Every release sells out in hours. On the secondary market, it goes even higher. Why? Because it captures exactly what elite bourbon drinkers crave. Not age statements, not rarity, but a taste of the way things used to be. Today, we're going to tear down this bottle of Rare Perfection 10-year. Not just taste it, but peel back its marketing, its community play, its flavor code, and explain exactly why it dares to charge this much. This is not just another whiskey review. This is a business case study on how to sell nostalgia in a glass. In Kentucky, the history of bourbon distilling layers up like silt in the Mississippi River. The big houses have famous names. The small ones toil in obscurity. But there is another kind of player, one that doesn't stand next to a copper still or ferment grain. They're called non-distiller producers. They buy aged whiskey from big distilleries and bottle it under their own label. Rare Perfection belongs to this category. Search its website. You won't find a single photo of a fermentation tank. No copper pot stills, no rickhouses packed with barrels. Instead, you'll find a single line. We search every warehouse in Kentucky to find those forgotten high-age, high-proof barrels. In other words, it's not selling what it made. It's selling what it picked. This model has always been controversial in whiskey circles. Some call it rebottling and rebranding. But those in the know understand that barrel selection is an art form. A skilled palate can sometimes be more valuable than an entire distillery. Behind Rare Perfection stands a legendary figure, Bernie Lubbers, one of the most respected independent bottlers in America. He has pulled countless unicorn barrels from Heaven Hill, Buffalo Trace, and other giants. His selection philosophy is brutally simple. He doesn't chase age statements or regions. He chases one thing. Does the whiskey make you forget to look at the price tag? The Rare Perfection line was born during one of Bernie's warehouse hunts. On the top floor of an old Kentucky warehouse, the hottest, driest spot where the angel's share hits hardest, he discovered a row of forgotten barrels, 10 years old, still above 130 proof. That meant these barrels had been filled at an exceptionally high initial proof and had been stored in the hottest location without losing too much alcohol to evaporation. He tapped a barrel, took a sample, and said words that later appeared on the brand's marketing materials. This isn't bourbon. This is time's tears. And so Rare Perfection 10-year was born. No distillery pedigree, no century-old family name. Just one man's name, one discerning tongue, and a nearly arrogant promise, perfect or not sold at all. Let's run a small experiment. Walk into your local supermarket. Grab any ordinary bourbon, around 45% ABV. Pour à glace. No ice, no water. Take a small sip. Your throat will feel a distinct burn. For most people, that is strong. Now turn up the alcohol to over 65%. You are no longer drinking bourbon. You are drinking liquid fire. But elite bourbon drinkers want exactly that. Because they know high proof is not a flaw, it's a vehicle. Alcohol carries flavor molecules. The higher the proof, the more information each sip can pack into your palate. Low-proof whiskey is like diluted soup. High-proof whiskey is concentrated essence. Of course, this only works if the liquid itself is good. Cheap, high-proof whiskey tastes like industrial solvent. But great high-proof whiskey, even at 130 proof, still lets you taste honey, caramel, toasted oak, and even a hint of cool mint through the burn. Rare Perfection's 130.7 proof is an extremely bold positioning. It refuses to pander to the masses. It doesn't care about the party crowd that mixes with cola. It targets those who have spent a decade in the whiskey world, tasted thousands of bottles, and trained their palates to be as sensitive as radar. These people won't complain that it's too strong. They'll only complain that it's not strong enough. From this angle, Rare Perfection is not just selling a bottle of whiskey. It is selling a certificate of bravery, proof that you have what it takes to challenge 130 proof. Now let's return to that label. 1850s handwriting, yellowed background, no batch number, no barcode, even the producer's name deliberately blurred. This is not an accident. It is a carefully constructed nostalgia trap. Psychologists have long known that retro packaging activates consumers' nostalgia bias. When we see old-style fonts, faded patterns, and handmade textures, our brains unconsciously associate them with authenticity, rustic honesty, and pre-industrial purity. Even if you never lived through that era, the association still works, because it has been implanted through movies, old photographs, and family stories passed down for generations. Rare Perfection's label is the withdrawal key for this psychological bank account. It tells you, this whiskey comes from a slower, dumber, more honest time. A time when distillers didn't answer to quarterly earnings reports, only to the next barrel. Even if the whiskey was actually bottled after 2020, aged in modern stainless steel tanks, climate-controlled warehouses, and computer-monitored aging curves. As long as those crooked, handwritten letters are on the label, you will want to believe this one is different. This trick did not start with Rare Perfection. From Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 to Bacardi's 1862, all long-lived brands do the same thing. But Rare Perfection takes it to an extreme. It has almost completely abandoned modern design language, disguising itself as a bottle of moonshine stolen from an antique shop. That deindustrialized disguise is one of the reasons it can command a $250 premium. Enough about the whiskey. Let's talk about the people. Behind every successful elite, whiskey stands a credible, story-driven opinion leader. For Rare Perfection, that story comes not only from Bernie Lubbers, but also from the person deconstructing it for you today, and from a book called Bottom Shelf. Bottom Shelf is not some glossy coffee table bookshelf sotsong. It is the story of a poor kid who started with the cheapest bottles on the lowest supermarket shelf, drank his way up through experience, and eventually became one of America's most trusted independent whiskey critics. No gilded background, no family estate, just a tongue that licked countless mediocre spirits and a mouth that dares to tell the truth. The book became a USA Today bestseller and was named the most honest whiskey read of the year by multiple industry publications. Why mention the book? To explain a principle. Trust can be built through a book, through lived experience, through tasting notes that never bullshit. When you face a $250 high-proof bourbon, you are not paying for the spec sheet. You are paying for that man's judgment. When he says it's worth it, you dare to swipe your card. To scale that trust, I designed a tasting kit called Blind Barrels. In short, I took the spirits from last year's top 100 list, made mini samples, and bottled them in identical blank containers, no labels, only numbers. You buy it, taste blindly at home, then check the answer key online. This solves two problems. It removes the intimidation of public tastings for beginners, and it gives experienced drinkers a quantifiable tool to test their own palates. It's not a cash grab. It's giving authority back to the tongue. Over the next few months, I'll be doing signing tours in several cities and teaming up with some old sports friends, not to drink and brag, but to seriously discuss how to train your sense of taste. I don't want to be an influencer. Influencers have a shelf life of 15 minutes. I want to be a whiskey mentor, someone you trust to take every word seriously. Alright, now we can finally pour the whiskey. Open the bottle. Don't rush to drink. First, smell. Close your eyes. Bring the glass to your nose like you're smelling a flower. Breathe in gently. What do you get? Cotton candy. Not the plastic bag stuff from the supermarket. The kind an old man makes with a vintage machine at a county fair. The kind with a thin, caramelized crust on the outside. Then vanilla. Not the chemical taste of vanilla extract, natural vanilla bean. Split open. The little black seeds giving off a warm, woody sweetness. Now, many so-called whiskey reviewers start throwing out words. Complex, deep, layered. Please, those words mean nothing. In my book, there's a taste mindfulness protocol. One sentence. Feel with your whole body. First sip. Don't swallow. Let the liquid rest on the tip of your tongue for 3 seconds. The tip senses sweetness. You'll get an explosion of honey-like texture. Then let it flow to the back of your tongue. That's where bitterness and finish live. At that moment, a warm current slides down your throat. Not burning, enveloping. It's like when you were a kid, running inside from a snowy day, and your mom handed you a cup of hot honey water. Hot, but comforting. Scroll through social media. You see so-called whiskey influencers. They get a glass, grimace at the camera, shake their heads and shout, "Wow, amazing!" Then they knock it back. No tasting steps at all. Let me imitate them. It's not hard. Wide eyes. Thumbs up. Go get it, guys. Done. But that is not tasting. That is performing. I'm a writer. My job is to paint flavor with words. Why bring up this taste? Because food carries emotion. When I was a kid, my father worked construction. He came home late every day. In the hottest summer months, what he brought back wasn't a paycheck, but sweat and a pack of crushed graham crackers. He'd soak the broken pieces in sugar water in an enamel mug, stir it with a spoon, and hand it to me. That taste, it was sweetness earned through hard work. So every time I hit that graham cracker note in this bourbon, I get a little lost for a second. Whiskey reviews shouldn't be cold scorecards. They can be keys to memory. Beyond that main note, the sweetness matrix in this whiskey is a luxury parade. You'll also find brown sugar, the dark kind with a little raw molasses edge. Peach pie or not fresh peach, but baked, wrinkled, syrup-filled peach pie. Chocolate, not dark bitter, but smooth milk chocolate. And a creamsicle, the orange and cream ice pop from childhood summers. Finally, creme brulee, that burnt sugar crust you crack with a spoon to reveal cool custard beneath. This whiskey has almost none of the typical bourbon spice, black pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg. It doesn't play the sharp game. Its texture is thick, syrupy, legs crawling down the glass like molasses. The finish? A faint hint of tobacco. Not strong cigar, more like an old man's pipe after it's been set down. A wisp of smoke and wood. Now let's put it in the industry landscape. How does this rare perfection 10-year score? I lined it up against two legends, King of Kentucky and William LaRue Weller. The first is a dragon in the bourbon world, rarely seen. The second is Buffalo Trace's cask strength benchmark, year after year a high scorer. The result? Rare perfection 10-year held its own. In sweetness, complexity, and texture, it even beat WLW. While King of Kentucky has more smoke and depth, Rare Perfection has better balance. So I can confidently predict that this whiskey will land near the top of this year's top 100 list, maybe even in the top 3. Should you buy it? My advice: if your budget allows, buy it. Not because $250 is value. It isn't. At this price, you are not just buying a bottle. You are buying an immersive experience of nostalgia. You are drinking old-school Kentucky, the obsession behind a hand-lettered label, the defiance of delivering a 130.7 proof challenge to a bland palate. Of course, if you prefer rational consumption, Then find a friend who has it and ask for a sip. If that sip stops you for 3 seconds, then come back and order a bottle. Finally, as always with my show, no matter how you drink yours, with water, ice, or neat, remember, sip safely, enjoy responsibly. That is the romance of whiskey. And my signature line, never changing, vodka sucks,